Hi, and welcome back to CP's Notebook, where I let you in on my process on my current works in progress. I'm CP, and I'm writing a trilogy. For the second episode of So I'm Writing a Trilogy, I wanted to take you guys through my process of continuing to flesh out characters and backstories. If you have not seen episode 1 of this series, you should go and check that out before you come and check out this one, just so you can be caught up on everything that I'm talking about and it won't be muddy for you. But as I am writing a trilogy, I have a prequel in this series that came about after I began writing the first actual book of the complete series. Since the first book of the trilogy is the first idea that I had for this series, period, I'm sort of working backwards in order to make the prequel make sense and then do the continuation of the story and so on and so forth. So today I am working on the prequel, which I named it Project Genesis. Halfway, based a little bit on the Ray song, but I call it Genesis because it is the very beginning of the story that we're following with Angel, Cassius, Daniel, the rest of my main characters, and their supporting cast, their families. So a big part of the backstories for the main characters themselves, I wanted their parents' backstories to play a bigger part in their backstory as well. So it's sort of not so much starting from their birth, but how their parents were birthed, what circumstances they were in to create the person that raised the main characters. Right? That might sound a little convoluted, but long story short, I wanted to focus on the parents first to lay a groundwork, to lay a foundation for then the main characters' backstories. I thought it would be easier to make a visual table, in a sense, to organize these characters, but to also be able to look at them all together and see if it really makes sense for me. So I will show you guys that. So I created a bit of an example for you guys to see, but this is pretty much just a template for me as well, with some placeholders, of course. Basically, this will be the portrait of the character, obviously, and then full name, age, sign, important relationships, i.e. so-and-so's mother, so-and-so's father, so-and-so's son, so on and so forth. And then notes about the background or any character development, themes, ideas. You guys saw the little example thing that I have in Notion. That's just to give you guys an idea of the way that I organize my ideas. Since the prequel is one of the last projects to come to me from this whole series, I am sort of working backwards, like I said, so I am using the information that I've already created for the first book, which is sort of in medias res, or in the middle of things, which means it starts in the middle of their story. There is no really definitive beginning aside from an inciting incident. I'm trying to work in tandem with both the first book and the prequel in order to make sure that things make sense, things are consistent, there are no plot holes, there aren't any Easter eggs that get brought up in one book and not in the other, which is proving to be a bit of a task, but I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be alright. I think I'm having fun with the backstories because I really want there to be a chance for extra layers in this book, and that's why I really am working on the characters before I work on the main characters of the first book, because I've already done a bit of backstory for them, but I think making sure that I connected to the parents and making their parents have a connection to everything and make it more of a whole project than it is like a flip of a page, you know what I mean, like introducing us to a world. I've heard a lot about world building, obviously, in like fantasy books and even thrillers possibly, but I feel like I'm discovering for myself what world building means in the context of fiction books, especially romance, because I do like to have a bit of an idea of what the family looked like before our main character got into it, and I guess in that way what the world looked like before our main character got into it. It's basically that I just want all of these stories to be different. Even if they have a similar ending, I want them to all get there differently. For example, two of my main characters are the only children, or they're both the only child, but they're the only child for completely different reasons, right? There's not like a superhero complex happening here where everyone has the same, like everyone's mom has the same name and everyone has the same backstory. Like, no, Okay, I want it to be like, I want it to make sense. I want it to give realism, but also like, I wanted to give romantic. I wanted to give like destiny. I wanted to give like, these people are fated to be together. Their backstories, their mother's backstories, their grandma's backstories may seem a little similar, but I think that's because they're meant to get each other in a certain type of way. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rattling. And I think it'd be cool to do one for a character that I haven't thought much about their backstory. I know where they are now, or at least I have an idea, but I'm not really sure where they've been. I don't know what their parents look like. I don't know what their home life looked like before they got into where they are. So I think that may be fun to take you guys with me on this particular character's origin. Okay, so as you can see, I have picked a character portrait and I also cropped it to a specific size as the other ones are, just because I'm a bit of a stickler. So now you can see that, you know, the portrait is the same size. And this is Sonomi Banner. At the time of the book, she is 21 years old, she is a Libra, and she is our main character, Angel's acquaintance and mentor. So they ain't really friends, but they're close enough to, you know, call each other acquaintances. They look out for each other, but they're not like that close. So for her backstory, I know at this point of Project Genesis that Sonomi is a bit of a veteran when it comes to how long she's been dancing and how many clubs she's danced at, right? So Sonomi Banner is a exotic dancer who Angel meets and then becomes the mentee of, right? So at this point, she's a bit of a veteran. She sort of has been around the block a couple times. She's done seen some things, and she has learned to stay to herself, get her money, and go home. And so we're trying to figure out what exactly created the circumstance for her to figure that out. What exactly made her be a dancer in the first place, possibly? What was home life like before she got into this life? I did toy with the idea of her being from LA because towards the climax or the end of the first part of the prequel, I did want for Sonomi to be going back home to somewhere. And I thought it would be cool to have her going back across the country. Because Project Genesis and the rest of the MB trilogy is set in New York in the East Coast, I thought it would be cool to have her going like back home. Like she's going all the way back across the country. Which at the same time is not really realistic. I do feel like we know, as far as people who are in more urban areas, that it's not very easy for you to find success in the things that interest you and the things that, you know, bring passion out of you in your hometown. You're gonna have to move in order for you to get things popping a little bit. And maybe that's what Sonomi had to do. She tried dancing in LA and it just wasn't working out for her. You know, when she realized, all right, it's not going to do what I wanted to do here, she said, let me go to New York. Why New York? I have no clue. It would make more sense if it was like Atlanta or something, but maybe she was also chasing a lover. Basketball player. Big basketball player in New York. She goes over to New York and it's like, oh, you don't even really love me. Okay, I am back and I did a bit of jotting down some ideas that came to mind while I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted Sonomi's background to look like. So I'll just read it for you guys. Sonomi Banner was born to Naomi Harrison and Sloan Banner on October 1st, 1995 in Oakland, California. Home life was very structured as Naomi and Sloan regularly attended the Baptist church ran by Sloan's mother, Sylvia Banner. But Sloan lived with his fair share of sin despite his desire for his daughter to know the Lord. In order to make ends meet and provide protection for his family, Sloan maintained ties to the local gang or mob and did drug runs with them or for them frequently. Because Sonomi grew up among such drastic lifestyles, she began to rebel in high school and she seemed to live a bit of a double life. While at home and school, Sonomi was the epitome of the perfect child and student, but when the weekend came around, she hung with a completely different crowd. So that's just a bit of what I came up with, and I thought I would like continue my discovery, if you will, on video, just to catch a bit of it, you know, for you guys to see the example. So what I'm thinking is that this different crowd probably served as a gateway to her getting into the dancing life, into her getting into the street life that she's currently in and has become a veteran of. Soon this different group of friends introduced her to alcohol, drugs, and they taught her to be armed. So upon her high school graduation, Sonomi was a completely different girl than her parents had known. She was slowly introduced to the street life and the things she could do to make money quick and keep her habits fresh. Sonomi began dancing at a strip club at the ripe age of 18 and began to make a living for herself from her beauty and appeal. But it wasn't long until she realized that the money she was making began to plateau and she hit a standstill. What I'm thinking is it doesn't really make sense for her to stay at the same one and her to only be at 2 and be seen as a vet. So I'm thinking that maybe after the first bout of her feeling like, okay, I'm not getting not only is she not getting the money that she wants, but she's also not getting the notoriety that she desires. Maybe after that one time, of her feeling like I'm not getting what I want out of this, she tries to just move clubs thinking that maybe that'll help. And then she realizes that no, it's just this place. And then she moves. She was slowly introduced to the street life and the things she could do to make money quick and keep her habits fresh. Sonomi began dancing at a strip club at the ripe age of 18 and began to make a living for herself from her beauty and appeal. But it wasn't long until she realized that the money she was making began to plateau and she hit a standstill. She moved to another club in the area, but nothing seemed to change about her circumstance, and she realized that it was the city. After years of accepting her declining image and her low earnings, Sonomi knew it was time for a change. At 20 years old, Sonomi decided to move across the country to make a name for herself, stripping in New York City. That's a bit of her backstory. I did toy with the thought that she was chasing someone, so I'll just say So that is a little bit of my process on how I create my character background stories. I hope you enjoyed seeing me in sort of real time come up with the little details. There's obviously more to do, but that's just a little taste of what I usually do. And I hope you stay along for the next episode of So I'm Writing a Trilogy. Until next time, bye.